is not a very long time, but it's not a short time either. While all my senior colleagues were in government, when you're trying to set the face of destiny for 1 billion plus people, probably 19 months is not a very long time. Of course, if one was to look at this 19-month period and what the focus of this government has been, even at the cost at times of being politically incorrect, has been to set a framework under which India can progress, India can continue to progress rapidly. And just like China spent 4 or 5 years, if one was to study the Chinese story, 1979 to 84 was the period that set the entire agenda for a 30-year double-digit growth story. And as I've been a student of Chinese economic history a little bit, and the Japanese, and both these stories tell us that it's the planning phase, it's the framework setting phase, it's the phase where you are preparing yourself for execution and implementation, which defines the success of your final goals or achievement of your goals. In fact, a small aside, when the Japanese Prime Minister was here and we were having our internal meeting just before we went into the bilateral dialogue with the Japanese Prime Minister, at one point when we were discussing the ability to get Japanese into the Indian growth story, involved with finances, involved with execution of very ambitious large projects, I mentioned to the Honorable Prime Minister, but sir, it's very difficult to deal with the Japanese. They take ages to decide anything. And it's frustrating. You keep having meetings and keep going around the same issue several times. So will we really be able to get something significant from them? And I'm really delighted at the very clear vision the Prime Minister has, and in some sense that defines our 19 months also, where he said, yes, the Japanese work that way. But he said, I feel that's the best way to work. Their planning is so perfect. They prepare themselves to the T, right up to the last screw, nut, bolt. Everything on paper is sorted out with great clarity of vision before they get down to execution, so that execution is almost like a mechanical implementation of the plans and can never go wrong. And in some sense, if all of us, and that does not mean that nothing happens while this is going on. It's not as if there's not been growth, it's not as if the macro indicators have not been kept under control. Inflation is down, growth is on the right path, particularly when juxtaposed to what's happening in the rest of the world, including China for that matter. Current account deficit, fiscal deficit, all on track as per schedule. Now all those macro fundamental improvements have taken place. But look at the simultaneous work going on to improve on the line side, on the each ministry's side, for impacting society in the long run. So if one was to take a simple thing like power, once it was logically clear to us that the challenges are not generation, and historically India is only focused on generation, we've landed up in a situation where we have huge surplus capacity on the generation side. Though I'm not complaining. I think any good economy should have that surplus capacity that's lagged, particularly on a utility like power. Because nobody's going to come to India and invest and say, okay, after I invest, you set up your power plants. We have to be ahead of the curve. But the biggest challenges were on transmission and distribution, and in some sense, the environment. And both of these challenges this government has taken head on. It's been a relentless pursuit to expand our transmission grid, where our total focus has been on the distribution company side, and I can guarantee it that the Uday scheme which we have launched, a completely bottoms-up approach to resolving this problem, with every stakeholder being consulted once, twice, again and again and again. And that's the success of this government's working. It's been that team effort in the last 19 months, where whatever we are trying to do, we'll try and talk to people, understand, take their concerns on board. And then when I'm preparing Uday, I even remember that Harsh Singhania had flagged off an issue. It is a matter of concern, and I bring in that also into Uday to try and resolve. So it becomes a part of a larger holistic vision of the government, and not Harsh Singhania or 10 other people, or for that matter, I'm told 200-300 people who ventured to get into renewable energy, were the pioneers of renewable energy, but today have been left stranded in the last 4 years without resolution of their problem. So I think the strength of this 19-month period has been the framework setting, the agenda setting, simultaneously taking the steps forward towards implementation, and through the period ensuring that transparency becomes the buzzword of this government. And all of you, I don't think anymore, are welcome to government offices to come with problems. But we are delighted to meet all of you in groups and resolve problems as a composite entity, as good for India, not good for an individual. So rent-seeking days are over. The days of equal and fair opportunity to everybody have arrived.